welcome back to another episode of the Interlake Sports Now. It is a big one this week, everyone. Brawl of the Wild week. We're going to have a Brawl of the Wild preview. We're going to talk some Cats and Griz later. Of course, we are going to recap our prep playoff action nearing that state title game. Finally almost there. Been a crazy year of prep football. But of course, that Cat-Griz game, that's one that has me pumped up right now. We're definitely going to dive into that later. And as always, we will highlight our prep players for the week, brought to you by Hagadone Media Group Montana. All right, but first, today's episode is brought to you by Nomad. Voted the Flathead's best manufacturer. Nomad is a longtime supporter of the local community and sports scene, celebrating 20 years of building great careers and mission-focused custom vehicles. Nomad, a Montana-based company making a global impact. Visit www.nomadgcs.com for more information. That's www.nomadgcs.com for more information. Quick reminder, you can subscribe to the Daily Interlake e-edition to get all your local news right at your fingertips. Check out thedailyinterlake.com for more information. All right, so we got a couple headlines this week. We always start out with our now headlining. Like I said, it's the Brawl of the Wild preview show, prep football playoffs. Those are kind of the big headlines, but we do have another big piece of news. I will admit this one is Brawl of the Wild related. It was announced Sunday morning by ESPN that College Game Day, the #1 premier college preview show, Saturday morning kickoff show, whatever you want to call it, they're coming to Bozeman for the Cat-Griz game, for the Brawl of the Wild. It's going to be epic. It's going to be special. ESPN brings their group of bandits up. They got their cast of characters, I should say. They bring the fun. They always bring a guest picker. Interesting to see who that'll be. Somebody related to the state of Montana, somebody related to the school, something like that. They always keep it interesting, but it's huge for the sport. It's huge for the state because Montana is a football state. You think of football states around the country, people like to say Alabama, they like to say Texas. I'll put Montana right up there. People love their football. They're about to see a passionate fan base with a real rivalry game, one of the oldest rivalry games in the nation. It's going to be special. And more importantly to me, no, I shouldn't say more importantly, but more importantly for the programs, it's a great opportunity to put your programs on display on College Game Day, potentially, get a little boost in recruiting, that national exposure. There's a lot of moving parts here. It's breaking news. It's exciting. The big story is, though, Montana football is going to be on full display. The passion of those two fan bases, the passion of the state in general when it comes to football. And like I said, who knows? Maybe each school gets a little boost from this, a little more hype, a little bit more recruiting, because they're already pulling in some great talent for the FCS level. Highlighting your program and highlighting what you're all about on the big stage like that is just one more way to make a name for yourself. Great opportunity for both the programs. Excited to see it. Definitely excited to see it. Okay, one other quick headline worth mentioning. Congrats to Carroll College, who took home a piece of the Frontier Conference title. They beat College of Idaho in basically a winner-in kind of a game. College of Idaho had already clinched a piece of the title. Carroll needed to win for a piece, and now with that win and a tie, because of a tiebreaker, Carroll does have a chance at a playoff berth in the NAIA playoffs if they land in the top 20 in this week's coaches poll. We'll keep you updated next show on that. But congrats to Carroll College pulling off the upset and beating College of Idaho. Fun stuff. Exciting to see our Montana teams finding success. All right, let's move it into our prep roundup. That was a really quick now headlining this week, but with the Cat-Griz game, with prep playoff football, we're going to spend a little bit of time diving into all that. Might have a special phone call from Fritz Neighbor later, talk a little Griz and Cats also towards the end of the episode. We'll see how that works out. Okay, let's get to our prep roundup. Today, we'll start out with a little bit of volleyball. Just a quick recap as the volleyball season is coming to an end, or has come to an end, excuse me. So we had 3 Valley teams in the all-class state volleyball tournament with Polson, Thompson Falls, and Bigfork making it. And unfortunately, all 3 teams did bow out of the tournament on Friday at Brick Breeden Fieldhouse in Bozeman. So, you want to win it all. That's obviously always the goal. But hey, worth mentioning, Bigfork made their first state volleyball tournament since 2005, and Polson won their 2nd straight divisional title. So, hey, it's not always about taking home a championship. There's a lot. You can find the, silver lining in the season. They played hard. They made the tournament. They had success. And those two teams had those notes right there to look forward to, or to look back on, I should say. So exciting stuff. We're going to keep it rocking and rolling to the prep football roundup. Also nearing an end here is football, as we now know who's going to be playing in our state title games. Let's dive right into the first one. I was at this game. Bigfork was upset by Missoula Loyola in the Class B semifinal. The Vikings lost 14-6 in this one. It was a very much so what you would expect, a playoff football game with a team like Bigfork who likes to run the football. It was gritty. It was tough. I watched a lot of prep football this year, and this was the first time that there were some hits that had me going, oh, wow, oh, right. I mean, these kids were going at it. They left it on the field, both teams. There's a great quote right here from Vikings head coach Jim Ben, who was proud of the way his team did play. Quote, played as hard as they could till the final whistle, end quote. We will get into the recap, but that's a great way to put it. Bigfork did end up coming up short, but they never gave up. It came down to a melee on one of the final plays. Their quarterback, Tristan Hurd, was driving towards the end zone, lost the ball. Missoula recovers. That seals the ball game. Next thing you know, it's victory formation. I'm kind of recapping this one on the fly. I was at this one. It was such a back and forth, old school defensive battle. There wasn't necessarily your typical highlights, but that kind of is credit to both teams sticking to their game plans, playing smart football. And I will say the Rams, they're a bit of a, I don't want to say a miracle story because, hey, you get hot at the right time in football, you make a run, that's what it's all about. I don't want to discredit, make them look like too big of underdogs, but they were not expected to win this game. Vikings came in undefeated. Missoula barely made the playoffs. Next thing you know, they got hot at the right time. They found a way to get their running game going. Talon Reynolds was the focal point of that Rams offense, carrying the ball 32 times on a mix of direct snaps, conventional handoffs, finished with 99 yards and a touchdown. Rams quarterback Aiden Brown finished 12 of 17 for 95 yards, and he did find Malik Little for a 17-yard scoring strike with 3:24 to go in the third. That was the game's first score. That kind of tells you the vibe of the game. Reynolds followed that up with a 3-yard rushing touchdown. That made things 14-0, and that's when Bigfork kind of found their groove. They made things interesting. Joseph Ferrier found pay dirt with 8:20 to play, and from there, the Vikings did shut out the Rams, but unfortunately, the Rams shut them out right back. So here's one more quote from Jim Ben, head coach of Bigfork, or a couple quotes, excuse me. Quote, kids played their butt off. Manny Baldy, Bryce Gilliard, and Jackson Nelson really had great games. Baldy finished with 10 tackles and a sack. Gilliard had 8 tackles, while Nelson had 3 tackles and a 33-yard kick return on special teams. So overall, like I said, maybe not similar to the volleyball stuff, not the results you desire. You always want to go for it all. But at the end of the day, you're right there. You made the semifinal game. You went undefeated in the regular season. You had a great group of kids, according to Coach Jim Ben. Great being around them the last 3 years, he said. So they had a great team. They had a great run. Nothing but kudos to the Bigfork team, and major credit to Missoula Loyola coming in as underdogs on the road. Tough environment, poor weather, ball was slippery, cold, icy, everything you could kind of say home field advantage. They still managed to come out on top. So credit to Missoula Loyola. We'll keep an eye on how they fare in their Class B state title game. So we'll keep it moving. Like I said, though, big credit to Bigfork for their season. A lot of respect for the way they play the game. I had so much fun the last 2 weeks going down there watching some playoff football in the icy, snowy conditions, just running the football, playing tough. Like I said, kids were leaving it all on the line. So kudos to that team, that coaching staff, and that football program. Keep it moving. All right, let's go to Polson. Like I said last time, a little bit more down the road. We'll head down to Polson. This game was in Lewistown, and the Polson Pirates season did come to an end, falling 49-32 to Lewistown. The Eagles, their defense and their offense just did just enough. Let's get into the recap from the Daily Interlake. As always, you can check these prep football recaps in the Sunday edition of the Daily Interlake or on thedailyinterlake.com. Okay, here's the recap. From Lewistown, the Polson Pirates piled up the yards, and the Lewistown Eagles piled up the points. The host Eagles did have plenty of yards, especially on the ground, in their 49-32 Class A semifinal win over Polson Saturday. Lewistown rushed for 360 yards with quarterback Gage Norselin running for 3 scores. His last 2 touchdowns offset touchdowns by the comeback-minded Pirates, who got 399 yards and 4 touchdowns passing from Jarrett Wilson. And the Pirates outgained the Eagles 562 yards to 477. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough, partly because the Pirates lost 2 fumbles and partly because Lewistown, 11-0, wouldn't be stopped. The Eagles will host Billings Central, which knocked off defending champion Hamilton 42-6 Saturday for the title. With the score 7-all, the Pirates appeared to get a break when Lewiston turned the ball over on a bad field goal snap, but then the Eagles got the ball back on a fumble, and Brady Jennis' 6-yard touchdown run gave them the lead for good early in the second quarter. So, Polson, forced to play from behind, did rally. They made that comeback effort. We'll dive into that a little bit more. So Polson did cut into the lead. They made it 35-26 at one point. But then at that point, the Eagles responded again. Wilson, who ran for 109 yards on 24 carries, scored from 3 yards out in the fourth quarter. But again, the guy we mentioned earlier, Gage Norselin, he did it again. He found a hole, got a 32-yard touchdown run with 4 minutes left, and that kind of was the dagger. That being said, huge performance from Wilson. He ended up having, like I said, 399 yards, 4 touchdowns. He added 109 yards on the ground on 24 carries, found the end zone on the ground. He hit Tyler Wenderoth quite a bit on the day, who had 12 catches for 153 yards for the Pirates. Owen McElway caught a touchdown pass, as did Tommy Sherry. Trent Wilson ran twice for 37 yards and caught 6 passes for 71 yards. So Polson ended up 9-1 on the season. It was their second straight semifinal loss. The Pirates' only title game appearance was in 1969. Jarrett Wilson ended his senior year with 2,616 passing yards and 35 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. He ran for 886 more and 17 scores. In his 3 years at quarterback, he passed for 8,812 yards and 115 touchdowns. He also ran for 1,859 yards and 27 scores. Lewistown's only other title appearance came in 2001 when the Eagles beat Whitefish 12-9 for the state title. The Eagles beat conference foe Billings Central 17-7 on October 14th. So, the Polson season comes to an end. We talked a lot about this Polson offense. Fun team to cover. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to go to any of their games, but I've been watching the footage, keeping up with it the best I can. And Jarrett Wilson, just a playmaker. He put the team on his back again. Not to say it wasn't a full team effort. They had a lot of contributions on offense. Great, well-rounded offense. But he did it again. It was just one of those things. Lewistown had a great team. They stayed poised. They held on, and they did their thing, so they're state title bound. But, hey, credit to Polson. Just like I said with Bigfork, it was great covering him this year, and a lot of credit to those kids for their run to the semifinals. There's no taking that lightly. That's very impressive, and they deserve to be proud of that accomplishment, no doubt about it. One last game we're going to recap just briefly, the State C 8-man semifinal game featuring the Mission Bulldogs, who held off Fairview 54-48. It's looking like next weekend I might be down in Mission covering that game, getting a little footage for the podcast, checking it out. So 8-man football, it's like a lightning bolt, track meet, a lot of scoring. And this one, 54-48 was the final score. At one point, Mission was up 40-8 in the second quarter. 40-8, and the final score is 54-48. So that just sums up just that fast-paced, action-packed type of football. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to head down there. Credit to Mission for their win. This is their first ever trip to the state title game, so they have a lot to be proud of. That's huge for them, and we might have a little bit more mention of some Mission players later in the show. So let's keep this show moving along. It's been fast-paced as usual lately. Trying to get to that Brawl the Wild preview. That's going to be fun. Such an electric time to be a Montana sports fan right now. So much action going on. All right. Real quick, before we keep it moving, let's get to a quick words from our friends at Nomad. At Nomad, the key to our success has always been the amazing talent and experience of our team. Based in one of the most beautiful places on earth, our Kalispell, Montana headquarters is home to some of the most skilled engineers, integrators, software developers, welders, electricians, carpenters, mechanics, and professional staff in the market. Our team is dedicated to working collaboratively with our valued clients to ensure success in every mission. Join our team. Check out our careers page at nomadgcs.com/careers to view current job openings and to submit an application. That's nomadgcs.com/careers. Make sure to go check that one out. So that was our prep roundup. Shout out to Nomad, as always, for their support. We are going to keep it moving. Like I said, fast-paced show, kind of fall sports winding down. We are going to have a fall recap show I'm thinking coming up, maybe post-Thanksgiving, and then we'll get into our winter sports preview. It's just going to keep rocking and rolling. So shout out again to Nomad. That being said, let's get into your Prep Players of the Week, presented by Hagadone Media Group Montana. The team in Montana is here to help you grow. Our skill team will assess your marketing goals and craft ROI-focused campaigns honed to meet your business needs. Our integrated marketing solutions will help your people find you wherever they are looking, whether it's Google, YouTube, apps, or in your local newspaper. Contact Anton at 406-758-4410 for more information. That's 406-758-4410 for more information. All right, Prep Player of the Week time. Like I said, fall sports is winding down, so we're going to do something a little bit different for our first Prep Player of the Week nod, and then we'll do a little more conventional to round out the segment. So, they recently released the all-state, all-conference soccer teams, all that good stuff. So we're gonna, there was a little recap in the Interlake this week. We're just gonna run through that recap and highlight our local Class A soccer athletes who were named to those teams. So here we go. The Whitefish Lady Bulldogs had 5 players named Northwest All-State, and the state champion Columbia Falls Wildcats had 6 on the list released Thursday. Isabella Cook, Brooke Roberts, Olivia Genovese, Maya Lacey, and Nora Schmidt were all-state and all-conference from Whitefish. Second team all-conference for Whitefish are Madeline Molefield, Delaney Smith, and Maeve Inglefinger. For the Columbia Falls girls, Hope McAtee and Josie Harris were all-state, Sydney Mann was all-conference, and Zoe Bird, Taylor Rogers, and Mia Johns were second-team selections. Also selected for all-state honors were Danica Buckland and Braden Gunlock of Bigfork. Peyton Gunlock made all-conference for Bigfork. Polson's Tia Mercer was selected all-conference second team, as was Scout Nadeau, Piper Bazell of Bigfork. Bryce Dunham, Nico Ling, Kai Golan, Andrew Miner, Walton Nichols, Finley Sundberg were Columbia Falls all-state selections, with Dale Blicken and Adam Schrader earning all-conference honors. Quite the showing for Columbia Falls. Columbia Falls, Ethan Austin, Josiah Kilman, and River Wolford were named second-team all-conference, as were Libby's David Bailey and Caleb Rydisel of Bigfork. I'm sorry, that name got me. Caleb Rydisel of Bigfork. I apologize. I do apologize for that one. Happens to the best of us. My last name's Dugan. Went to a place for about 6 months, and they were calling me Dugan, so I've been there. I did forget to mention here, Bigfork's Landon Bierman was selected for All-State, as were Colin Lyman and Ryder Elliott of Whitefish. So, big congratulations to our Class A soccer players on their achievements. Check out the full list on theDailyInterlake.com, or grab the Friday, November 11th version of the Daily Interlake. And my apologies again for the name I botched there. Like I said, I told the story of the Dugan thing. Went on for a long time. I know how it is about the name mispronounced. Anyways, I apologize, but hey, let's keep it moving. Prep Players of the Week, epic achievements for those soccer players, and major kudos. When you're top of your class in the state, the conference, anything like that, you really earned it, that's for sure. So now to the football field. Despite the loss, we're rolling with them again. Polson quarterback Jarrett Wilson. He had his name called last week. I think it's like the 4th time we've called his name. But he racked up 399 passing yards while throwing 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, added 109 yards on the ground, and a touchdown. Wilson played a part in all 5 of Polson's touchdowns on the day in the loss. So his football IQ is off the chart. Every time you look, it feels like he has a knack for making a play when his team needs it. Ultimately, Polson did come up short of their state title goals, but like I mentioned in the recap earlier, Polson ended his senior season with 2,616 yards passing, 35 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. He ran for 886 yards, 17 touchdowns on the ground. So, kid put up monster numbers. In his career, prep-wise, he had 8,812 yards, 115 touchdowns, and he ran for 1,859 yards and added 27 scores on the ground. So the numbers speak for themselves. He was a driving force for that Polson Pirates team who made the semifinals. He deserved a lot of credit, so we had to shout him out. So very excited to see where his football journey takes him next, because the kid is a heck of a football player. All right, last up, we mentioned that their recap briefly. We didn't fully dive into it, but here we go. Mission football duo quarterback Kellen McClure and playmaker Bryce Humphrey earned the nod after helping lead their team to the Class C 8-man state title game for the first time in school history. Humphrey had 4 total touchdowns on the day, while McClure threw for 2 scores and ran for 2 more, including an 18-yard scoring strike from Humphrey to McClure. From McClure to Humphrey. So Those were your prep players of the week presented by Hagadone Media Group Montana. Major props to all our soccer players. We called their names. And Jarrett Wilson, great football season. And hey, shout out that Mission Duo. They got a chance to finish the job in the state title game this week. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep you updated there. Again, those were your prep players of the week presented by Hagadone Media Group Montana. The team in Montana is here to help you grow. Our skilled team will assess your marketing goals and craft ROI-focused campaigns honed to meet your business needs. Our integrated marketing solutions will help your people find you wherever they are looking, whether it's Google, YouTube, apps, or in your local newspaper. Contact Anton at 406-758-4410 for more information. That's 406-758-4410 for more information. All right, we've been jamming through this one, but it's the time we've all been waiting for. It's time for the Brawl the Wild preview. Griz, the Cats, the two Montana teams, the Montana Super Bowl, whatever you want to call it. Let's just jump into it. I'm going to start it out here. So I will say this. Both teams won this past week. Montana blew out Eastern Washington, and the Bobcats blew out Cal Poly. Both teams just had statement victories before their rivalry game. It was obvious they weren't there to play around. They knew what it was important. They're like, let's get out of here healthy. Let's get to this Brawl the Wild next week. And for the Grizz especially, you got to win that game if you want to make the play, kind of seal the deal with the playoffs. So we're going to do a couple fun facts here real quick. And then I'm going to kind of give my keys to the game for each team. And then hopefully, like I said, we're going to have a little convo with Fritz in a little bit to wrap up the show. So here we go. A couple fun facts, just some background of the rivalry. The rivalry began in 1897, and it's the 31st oldest rivalry in all of Division I football history, the fourth oldest at the FCS level. The University of Montana leads the all-time series with 73 wins to Montana State's 41. That being said, in the last 10 years, it's been pretty evenly split, with the Bobcats winning 5 times and the Grizzlies winning 5 times. Since 2011, and the Grizzlies, one of those wins was vacated. So that all-time record, we can kind of leave that to the side right now. It seems like a different era in Bobcats football. They're very competitive right now. Coach Houck is 6-5 all-time versus the Bobcats. Since returning to the Grizz in 2018, he's just 1-3. So I think he's going to be very hungry for this one. Don Reed, who coached the Grizz from 1986 to 1995, has the most all-time wins of any coach in the history of the series, going 10-0 in his time as the head coach of the Grizz in the Brawl the Wild. That's impressive right there. As for the Bobcats, Sonny Holland, who coached the Bobcats from 1971 to 1977, is the winningest Montana State coach in the series history, going 6-1 in the rivalry. And Coach Jeff Choate, who was the coach from 2016 to 2019 and predecessor of current coach Brett Vegan, was 4-0 in his time as the Bobcats coach. Vegan is 0-1 in his one Brawl the Wild. That was last year. So he's going to be definitely determined to change that up, even the score with the Grizz, and not fall too far behind in the matchup. So let's dive into my keys to victory here. I'm going to start out with the Grizz, and then we'll jump into the Bobcats. So these are my keys to the victory. How can the Grizz win? Number one, get an early lead. I think this is absolutely crucial for the Grizzlies to win this football game. The Bobcats' rushing attack this season has been putting up monster numbers all season long, and it's multiple guys doing it. So the idea you're just going to shut that running game down is far-fetched. They have too many weapons. They utilize them in a creative way, and they get them out in space, and they make plays. So the Grizzlies, if they want to win this football game, in my opinion, they have not looked like a team who plays well from behind. Get that early lead. Get a 7-0 lead. Get a 3-0 lead and hold on tight and start playing some defense. Obviously, that's not going to be enough to hold down the Bobcats. But what it does allow you to do is execute this next key to victory. So the early lead is crucial for the Grizzlies because it allows them to stick to the run game, which is my second key to the game. When the Grizzlies run the football, they're a different team. The last 2 weeks, they have dominated on the ground, and they have gone to the ground often, consistently, and they've run the heck out of the football. There was a couple weeks there where it was kind of on and off. It was like, are they going to fully commit to the run? Do they have that guy at the running back position? It seems like Nick Osmo has really stepped up as a tone setter for the Grizzlies. He's had back-to-back huge performances. I believe he had 4 touchdowns last week, and before that he had over 200 yards rushing. So back-to-back huge games. But if the Grizzlies fall behind and all of a sudden they're playing from a 10-0 deficit, it's really hard to feed your running backs like they like to. So I think it's crucial for them to get that early lead, because the less time the Grizzlies defense is chasing around Tommy Mellott and Sean Chambers, and the more time the Grizzlies offense is on the field controlling the clock, playing their game, that's a good thing. So next up, I just kind of mentioned it a little bit here. I think that maybe the most important key is containing Tommy Mellott and Sean Chambers. Look, easier said than done. I understand that. But the Bobcats offense flows through their ground attack, and if the Grizz can come up with creative ways to keep Mellott and Chambers off balance, make them play from the pocket, it changes the game. Keep those guys from beating you in the open field. Look, that's when they're at their best. When those guys can get in space and they can wreak havoc and all that kind of stuff, that's when Mellott and Chambers are two of the most dangerous players in the country. If you're the Grizzlies, who love to bring pressure, we've seen this season, the Grizzlies have a great pass rush. But when you look at a team like Idaho earlier this year who beat the Grizzlies, what they do, they got rid of the ball quick, and they made it hard for that pass rush to be effective. So that's the big thing to me. How do you balance that out? How do you keep Tommy Mellott under control? Do you do the QB spy? Do you not blitz as much? Do you play more of a zone look? There's a lot of ways to go about it. But number one, maybe trade off a little bit of that blitzing to keep those guys under control. All right, so we discussed Grizzlies' key to victory as far as keeping Tommy Mellott, keeping Sean Chambers maintained, keeping those guys in the pocket, making that decision. Do we maybe sacrifice a little bit on the pass rush, force those guys to beat us with their arms by maybe throwing an extra defender into a QB spy kind of role, put them into more of a QB contained kind of role where you're protecting the edge a little more with your defensive ends rather than going for the sack. Those kind of little things. So that's what, in my opinion, is going to be a major key for the Grizz. Keeping them moving, some keys to the game, how the Grizz can win, and then we'll get to the Bobcats' keys to the game. As far as that conversation with Fritz, due to time constraints, it's looking like I'm going to post that as a separate little entity. You'll be able to catch that still on our social media platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Apple, wherever you're listening to your podcast, YouTube, but it'll be there. So we'll post that separate. We'll get a little bit more into the Brawl, the Wild, the Grizz, the Cats, get more in-depth into all of it. So now as far as my keys to the game, we'll keep this rolling. Next up for the Grizz, keep Lucas Johnson on the field and prevent him from taking extra hits. Look, Daniel Britt looked good in the second half versus Eastern Washington in garbage time duty. That kid looks like he could be the future of the program. But Johnson gives that team the veteran leadership, 7th-year senior, dynamic playmaking ability. He was on crutches at halftime last week. That's not what you want to see if you're a Grizzlies fan. I think priority number one is keeping him on the field, protecting him. And the big thing I'm getting at is the offense, similar to just like we talked about their defense. Where do you draw that line as far as risk management and game versus, hitting the home run? Let's keep Johnson safe. Let's protect our guy versus, running him out there like a madman. And the reason I kind of compare it to the defense is you have to make the decision, do you run the QB spy or not? So just big decisions on the line, but I think keeping Johnson away from that extra damage is crucial because you want that guy in the game. And if the Grizz can pull off a win or at least make enough of a statement, keep it close, make that playoff run, make the playoffs, you really want Lucas Johnson on the field. So it's up to the coaching staff to do their best to, factor that into the play calling. Of course, it's tough because here's my final key, and this is where it gets tough. The last key for the Grizz is to play like it's your last day. Leave it all on your line. And that doesn't mean go out there and have coaching staffs throw guys in the fire, getting guys like Johnson hurt. What I mean by that is sometimes coaches like to have a poker face. They like to have that, I'm not really going to show what's up my sleeve. I got to hide a couple cards. I got to keep my magic tricks hidden until the very end. Keep that rabbit up the hat, on the rabbit in the hat to the very last play. Not this time for the Grizz. You need to go out there. You need a statement victory to make the playoffs. You need a great performance. A loss leaves way too many question marks. So you can't play that game safe. You can't play timid. You can't play in the sense, let's kind of like save a couple plays in the back pocket in case we match up, with the similar front in the playoffs, and we don't want to show our hand too much. Because at the end of the day, we know coaches like doing that. We know offensive coordinators, they want to save their, those little special home runs they have hidden. So in my opinion, the Grizz, from the opening snap, when they get the football, play your game. Run the football. Play like it's your last. and don't leave anything in the tank. Leave it all out there, and don't be afraid to call everything you got in the arsenal as far as that coaching staff, because I know it's nice to have a couple weapons for the playoffs in the back pocket, but if you don't make the playoffs, those weapons don't really help at all. So let's move into the Bobcats. I think the Grizz have gotten the ship on the train back on the tracks, I guess you could say. So they're steering in the right direction. We'll learn a lot about both these teams this Saturday. So let's move to the Bobcats. How can the Cats win? What are their keys to victory? All right. Number one, stay patient. The Bobcats offense, they have that capability to hit home run after home run, go for the big play, go for the quick strike offense. Tommy Malott makes a play with his legs, get outside the pocket, finds a receiver deep. Marquis Johnson last time scored, I believe, 4 touchdowns on the ground, but every one of them was an explosive home run kind of play. What happens if the Grizz bottle that up in the first quarter? Do the Bobcats get a little bit out of their rhythm? Do they stop running the football? Do they abandon the run, become a one-dimensional offense? Because that's when the Grizzlies can start picking their spots. That's when they can maybe get to the quarterback, utilize that pass rush, create a turnover. So in my opinion, if you're the Bobcats, the first quarter score should mean nothing to you. Play very patient, play your football game, and under the belief, if we keep running our offense, running the football, eventually we're going to crack that big one and score a touchdown, because that's the only thing I worry about with the Bobcats. They haven't really been tested quite like the Grizz have, in the sense the Grizz had some tough losses. The Bobcats, they lost to Oregon State. Great team. They were just ranked in the FBS rankings, so it's a tough loss. But I don't know if they had that loss where maybe they, really felt the adversity. So I think that if you fall behind early, you got to stay focused. You got to stay locked in. That'll be crucial. Number 2, utilize the short passing game. Like I just mentioned. So the Bobcats, they have these home run hitters, Tommy Malott, Sean Chambers. Those guys can find a way to score almost any time with their legs, given the right situation. The Grizz defense, they love teeing off on opposing quarterbacks. They would love to get as many hits on the Bobcats quarterback duo as they can. So in my opinion, get rid of the ball quick. Utilize the short passing game. That's my next key. Utilize that short passing game, similar to what we saw Idaho do to beat the Grizz earlier in the season. Get the ball into the hand of the playmakers and put the pressure on the Grizzlies defenders to make tackles in the open fields, rather than them just locking in on Tommy Malott for 4 quarters and Sean Chambers. So that's my opinion. Get rid of the ball quick. Utilize the short passing game, get the ball in the hands of the playmakers, and make the Grizzlies make the plays. Because if you just sit there and you look for the home run every time and all that, eventually they're going to start teeing off. And that's how you put your quarterback in a bad position, similar to, like I said, the Grizz need to do with Johnson. You got to protect your guy. If you're the Bobcats, utilize that short passing game. Next up, and this might be the most important, don't let the moment get to you if you're the Bobcats. So I know, that's cliche, I get it. But look, Bobcats Nation is flying high right now. They just got awarded College Game Day. Rightfully so. That is awesome. And the whole entire Bobcats fan base, team, program, everybody has the right to be super pumped to have College Game Day on their home turf. Now, that being said, it's an extra level of distraction to already the most distracting, hyped up, media frenzy game of the year for the team. So how does having College Game Day on campus, how's ESPN on your campus hosting a national television show the morning of your game affect the way you look at things, affect the way you play? Because the Bobcats are coming into this as the favorites. They have an FCS long winning streak of 17 games at home, and their only loss this season, like I said, was to Oregon State. They're expected to win this game. How do they deal with the pressure? Coach Vegan has never beat the Grizz, and now ESPN and College Game Day are in town. I know coaches and athletes and all of us like to act like we're made of steel and we don't have emotions and da-da-da when we're playing sports. I've been there. I get it. At the same time, emotions are going to be running high Saturday. You can't hide from it. You can't deny it. And I think it is going to be an epic day of football. But I think the big thing, the last key for the Bobcats, like I said, it's just stay locked in. Avoid all the other stuff. Focus on the football field. Win every down, win each play, as they say, and that needs to be your focus. It's not, oh, ESPN's here, this is going on. they got to deal with it for the whole week. The Grizz are traveling there. Bozeman, they're hosting. They're going to be setting it up. They're going to know where the stage is and where all the TV cameras are going to be. So it's going to be a little different for the Bobcats. I think if they can stay locked in, they're going to make this a heck of a game. These teams are evenly matched. I think the Bobcats, like I said earlier this year, they have a little edge offensively. When healthy, the Grizz, I think, have a little edge defensively. That being said, both teams have been banged up a little bit. Both teams are coming off huge wins. Both teams have momentum rolling. And both teams are about to leave it all on the line in the Brawl of the Wild this Saturday. It's going to be epic. I can't wait. That'll do it for today's show. I can't wait to see how this shakes out. I'm going to be covering that Mission 8-man football state title Saturday, it looks like. So I think I'm going to do a little social media blackout on Saturday. I'll watch College Game Day in the morning and then just kind of disappear. I don't want to know how that game goes. I'm sure somebody will spoil it for me. But, hey, what a time to be a Montana football fan. State title prep games. The big one, Cat-Griz on College Game Day, ESPN in town. It's going to be a party. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be epic. All right, I love it. Fun stuff. Great to see the state of Montana represented because their love for football is no joke. So much passion in this state for the game. All right. So like I said, I'm going to post that conversation with Fritz separately. We'll dive into the Brawl of the Wild and the Grizz and Cats stuff a little more. Give us a chance to go more in depth. Before we wrap this thing up, I want to give a special thanks to Hagadone Media Group Montana for their support and remind everyone listening that this episode was brought to you by Nomad. Voted the Flatheads Best Manufacturer. Nomad is a longtime supporter of the local community and sports scene, celebrating 20 years of building great careers in mission-focused custom vehicles. Nomad, a Montana-based company making a global impact. Nomad has worked with NASA and various branches of the United States military, so you know Nomad is a name you can trust with your manufacturing needs. For more information, visit www.nomadgcs.com. That's www.nomadgcs.com. All right, that'll do it for today. Shout out to Flatheads, the best manufacturer, Nomad. Shout out Hagadone Media Group. Big thanks to both of them. Hagadone Media Group Montana, I should say. Big thanks to both of them. I'm so pumped up right now. So ready for this Brawl of the Wild, College Game Day, all the action. So next week, we'll recap the state title games for football. We'll recap the Brawl of the Wild. We'll see where the Grizz and the Bobcats are sitting as the FCS playoffs wind up. Did the Grizz get in? Are the Bobcats getting the bye? How does it all shake out? We're going to see next week. The Bobcats are locked to get in, so this is huge for the Grizz. We're going to see what happens. I can't wait to see. We'll get into that next week. Thank you as always, y'all. I'm Josh Dugan, and that'll do it for the Interlake Sports Now. What a time to be a Montana sports fan. You have a great day and enjoy your week.